Hi everyone, I'm Mara Webster and we are here for another SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversations at Home. And I'm really excited today to be joined by Azhy Robertson, who is currently starring in HBO's Plot Against America as Philip. And he does such an amazing job, and you probably know and love him already from Marriage Story and his incredible performance there. Thank you so much for joining us today. How is everything going at the moment for you and your family?
I mean, pretty good. In terms of remote learning, it's not too different from set tutoring, and the whole quarantine thing. It's kind of upsetting since you can't really go outside. But at least I'm playing a lot of board games with my friends and family, and I'm calling my friends, and it's pretty cool since we're more or less staying in touch.
Yeah, I saw a great picture that you posted on Twitter of some of your remote learning when you were filming the show in Washington and the beautiful sunset. What do you love about getting to do on-set tutoring? Because you obviously have individual teachers that get to work with you and give you that one-on-one attention.
Well, the thing about actual school, you have to do, since there are a bunch of students, your teacher has to, if you want to ask for help in actual school, maybe she might not get to you, but when you have a tutor, that's basically what they're there for.
Yeah, that's so great. I wanted to jump in and talk about HBO's Plot Against America, which you're so great in it. And I know that you actually auditioned for a different role first, and then you came back and auditioned for the role of Philip. What was that like, having to prepare two different characters and two different auditions for the same job?
Well, it's cool because both auditions were the exact same scene, but with different characters. So one of them was with Selden's lines, and one of them was the exact same scene, but with Philip's lines. So I sort of knew the lines and the emotions that Philip was feeling, since I was sort of on the other end before as Selden. So it was a little bit easier since it was the same scene.
That's so great. Do you remember which scene it was from the show that you auditioned with?
I don't remember what the scene was exactly, but I remember that they were playing chess together, and so I'm not sure if it made it to the show or not, but I'm pretty sure it did. And Selden was explaining to him how it's a checkmate and it's your turn, Philip, and Philip was a little bit distracted. And
That's so great. That's such a unique opportunity to play both parts in the same scene. Since the show obviously is based in history and set in a certain point in time, did you know very much about that, or did you kind of go out of your way to learn specifically about history from then before you made the show?
Well, some things I already knew about, the Nazis and how they were super bad and against the Jews. But I had to learn about a lot of stuff. I didn't know who Charles Lindbergh was, and I looked him up, and it was, and I learned that a lot of stuff about him, and he was the first person to cross the Atlantic Ocean, I think. Yeah, right? Sorry, I don't remember. And I learned about Roosevelt, and yeah.
That's so great. In terms of when you were making the show, since it's a period piece and you're filming on the locations and the costumes and everything there, does that make it easier for you to kind of understand and get into your character?
Yeah, definitely. Because at that time, everything was very different, especially what children did. In the opening scene of the whole thing, the whole show, episode 1, I was playing in the street, and that setting really helped me imagine what it was like for what children did back then, how they played in the street and did different things.
Yeah. Did you have much chance to rehearse or kind of sit with the rest of the cast that you were working with, particularly the other actors that are your family in the show?
Yeah, actually, it was cool because a few weeks before we started filming, I had we went to this place, me, Zoe, Morgan, and Caleb, the whole 11 family, besides, well, the extended family anyway. And it was cool because we had a little chat, and my mom was sitting at a separate booth, and we were just talking and getting the feel for things, and just trying to get into the mood of being a whole family.
Yeah. Were there things that you think you learned about acting from working with Zoe and Morgan, who play your parents in the show?
Definitely. Zoe and Morgan. Morgan, he always, he got in the mood, like, before the scene, which I feel is very essential for, like, almost every actor. And there's something that I used to do before that, like he raises his voice a lot in the show, so, and he's not holding it in, really. It's like whenever you sound angry, and like he does it a lot in the show, he didn't like hold it in, like, yeah. And Zoe, it was just, since her character, Bess, is a little bit more emotional and timid, I learned a lot about being emotional and timid from her and her performance.
Are there things that you like to do for yourself and with the people that are working with you to help you prepare for a role once you're just at home with the script before you actually go into filming that you find really helpful and useful for you in figuring out your character?
Well, yeah. I always like read the script, obviously, and with Philip, I think since it was a period piece, I had to learn a lot about, since he collects a lot of stamps, I definitely had to learn about that, and it was really cool learning about that stuff, and the different stuff he did, like the games he played, and all the way children interacted with people was very different back then. So I learned a little bit about that too.
That's so great. Yeah, I love the stamp collecting, and there's a lot of detail to it. It's not just something that we see him do once. What were some of the interesting things that you had to learn and understand about stamp collecting for the show?
Well, I learned about how people who collected stamps, they were like, most stamps were about history and like historical events and places. My personal favorite is called it's an upside down plane. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was canceled. I forgot the name. It was like Upside Down Mary or something. And it's cool because it was an upside down plane, and it was canceled because it was like, it was an error. It was supposed to be a right side up plane, and I think it was really cool. And now it's worth like $5 million. Wow,
that's crazy to think that a stamp is worth $5 million, but I know there's a few of those out there. I think also one of the things that people on the internet seem excited by are the comics that Philip is reading that you have in the show. Did you have the actual original comics, or were they just prop ones?
Well, it's not like they didn't have any pages in them, but the pages in there were, I don't think they belonged to the like original comics. They were just little short stories of goofy characters. It was actually pretty fun to read.
That's so wonderful. And I was interested in working with David Simon, who created the show, and kind of how he helped you to understand Philip and the experience that he was going through in the show. Like, how was he helpful to you?
Well, that's a good question. His work, the script, it shows Philip in a great way, and it shows how he's like sort of witnessing everything, and he's just observing it, and it's cool because he's really I mean, it's not cool, but like it's interesting because he's shocked by everything, and he learns about some pretty terrifying stuff. and it's great because David Simon really portrays in how a child, and not just back then, even now, would react to that.
I love that so much. I was also interested because you were just mentioning how like he really pays attention to everything that's going on around him. If that's something that you find yourself doing a lot, if you just find yourself observing people around you all the time, and if that's a really useful thing for you to do as an actor.
Yeah, that's very useful because not just with real life, but with acting, with like, I mean, not real life, but with everyday situations, but with acting too, because the thing with my fellow actors, they're all very great. Like, they all have very great performances, and I think learning from them is amazing because I think if you don't have a great scene partner, then you can't really get into your character as well as you could with the amazing scene partners that were the Levin family. So it was a lot easier to get into my character, Philip, when everyone else was in their character so amazingly.
Yeah, I love it. I also know that you said that one of the things that was really challenging and difficult about playing Philip is filming a lot of the emotional scenes, because there's a lot of those throughout the entire show. What would you do before you were going to film one of those? Was there anything that you do for yourself to try and prepare for a really emotional scene?
Yes. Usually I usually just have to concentrate and be isolated from people and just think about a bunch of upsetting things. And I feel after a take, I can't just get to talk to everyone. I just have to stay in that mood for the whole scene, every shot. So I think that's a good technique. Always.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And it definitely shows in your performance because it's really great there. I was wondering, were there any specific scenes that you found really difficult to shoot compared to some of the others?
Well, there wasn't really a specific scene, but a lot of scenes where, like the one where I had to watch, since Philip, as I said before, is like a witness, he has to watch a lot of bad stuff happen around him. And like, there's a scene where he has to learn about the Ku Klux Klan. And I had to learn about that as well. And when I did, it was just terrifying. And it might have been even harder than the emotional scenes, to be honest.
Yeah. In the opposite way, was there a scene that was one of your favorites from the show to film?
I really liked the whole DC segment in episode 3. That was very fun to film because we went to the actual Lincoln Memorial, and there were ducks in the pond, and I've only ever been there once before, I think, and that was when I was like 3, and it was very nice seeing it again since it's like a huge, like, very important.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful place to be. That's so great that you got to go back there. When you were filming Marriage Story, obviously you got to work with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. What were some of the things that you think you really learned from working with the two of them? Because they're so great.
Yeah, they are. Well, with Scarlett, she with both of them, actually, I learned not to force the emotion. Like, they had this one really huge emotional scene, and that was really amazing. And I feel like from watching that and from the scenes that I'm in with them, I feel like that you don't, like, crying isn't the only thing that's emotional, really. Like, you could show something 10 times more saddening than crying when you do it right like them.
Yeah. Was it different having to learn your lines for that movie? Because I know that Noah Baumbach, he's such a great director, but he likes everything to be very specific in terms of the line should be the way that it was in the script. So did you feel that you really had to make sure that you always got the words exactly as they were on the script in a different way to normal?
I mean, I try to make them as good, like as close to the script as possible, usually, unless I ask. And Noah, he's a great director and writer because he, like, the tiniest little minuscule thing, like in one of the scenes when Charlie is yelling at me to get in the effing car, I rub my nose, and you'd think that's not in the script, but it is. So it's cool how he writes the tiniest things, the tiniest details, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciated that.
That's so amazing. I had no idea that he went to that level of detail for those things as well. In terms of auditioning, I wanted to ask you about that because obviously auditioning is a big part of being an actor, and it's a lot of work to do. Are there things that you really enjoy about auditioning, or what do you find difficult about that whole process because it is so much work?
Yeah. Usually in auditions, it's the most important scenes of your character. I mean, some of the most important scenes of your character that you're auditioning with. So, like, sometimes there are very emotional scenes, and like going into the room and not really having too much time to prepare, it's kind of difficult, but it's it is pretty challenging, but it and in auditions, I feel like since it's not in the actual place, you don't have the exact mood, which is probably intentional because they're just testing your abilities, and I think that's very smart.
It is, yeah. Have you had to do very many self-tape auditions where you've recorded them from home as well?
Yeah, a few of them. Some of them are pretty intense, like emotional, and I feel like self-tapes, they're a little bit, they're just as they're like auditions, but like they're a little bit more stressful because like when not stressful but more challenging because when they're also kind of better because in an audition room, the people there would probably be nicer to you than like people like your parents who know you well and yourself. So my mom is a little bit strict with the tapes, but I think that's good because she knows me the best and she knows that I could do better.
Right. She knows what your skills and your talents are. It seems like your mom, and your family are really, really supportive and help you a lot with your career. How are they there and helping to support you as you get through as an actor and going out on auditions and filming and having to spend time away from home? Are they traveling with you a lot as well?
Yeah. Usually my dad travels with me, but my mom always handles like getting auditions, and she calls it logistics. But she always says she handles logistics. And my dad he's the one who takes me to set. Sometimes my mom does, but usually only during the summer since she's a teacher.
Oh, amazing. I didn't know that about her. That's fantastic, probably especially right now. Has she been helping with some of the at-home schooling at the moment?
Yeah. She usually helps me with most of my work. I mean, both of my parents do.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so happy for you that they're so supportive and that they're there to help you out with all of that. When you first got a chance to watch Plot from America, what was the experience like getting to finally watch the whole show? Because obviously you're only there on certain days and making certain scenes. So what was it like seeing all the work that everybody else had done?
I mean, I read the script, but I didn't imagine that. when you read something, you have this whole like picture in your mind, and you can't really change it. I mean, you can change it, but when you actually watch the thing and you see what it's actually like, it's pretty eye-opening, actually. And it sometimes it makes a lot more sense than the picture in your head.
Yeah. And obviously right now we're all staying at home watching a lot of TV at the moment. What are you looking forward to doing most once we're able to go back outside and not having to stay where we are right now and stay distant from each other?
Really, I'm looking forward to actually seeing my friends in person, because we don't really get to see each other that often other than FaceTime now. So it'd be really cool to see them like actually in person again.
Yeah, well, I hope that you get to see all of your friends again soon. And thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today. I really appreciate it. And I hope that everyone watching this video will check out Azhy's amazing performance in HBO's The Plot Against America, which is currently airing. So you've got plenty of time to catch up staying at home. Thank you again for doing this with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.